You have a very particular point as to why Micron, the memory maker, is important. Not affected by volatility. Stock up 17% on bumper earnings. Gross margins now in the 85% bracket. But Mads, why is this important?
Depends who you're asking. For the average consumer might not care much about Micron, but many of them will care about Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw that Apple took a bit of a beating yesterday. The reason they took a beating is because they've just said that they've had to increase prices, not by a little bit, but by 20%. And why? Because of cost increases of memory and storage. And so what is that? Well, that's Micron. And that's all the stuff we're talking about. Now, if we look back over the last year, the S&P 500, the world's most important stock market index, well, after the FTSE 100, of course, Neil, the second most important, let's say, is up 21%. The NASDAQ 100, the big tech companies, up 32%. And it's all on AI. It's AI, AI, AI. And we've gone through the Trump wars, the oil shock, inflation, low growth, the whole works. But as long as there's belief that the AI train keeps rolling, the markets will keep humming. And in the past week, markets, they've had concerns. NVIDIA's been down 5%. They're now below $200 a share. Why? Because there are concerns that AI growth is topping out. And sentiment has soured this week. As you said, SpaceX under $2 trillion, Cerebras under the IPO price. The Fed had a hawkish flip. And so why is Micron important in all of this? Because they make the high bandwidth memory that goes into all the GPUs. And that memory is really, really precious, and it's really, really expensive. And there are only 3 companies globally that can make it. And so when we know how well Micron is doing, that gives us an indication of how well the whole AI economy is doing. And so Micron is the only firm reporting earnings right now. The others not until Q3. So if we want to know what's happening right now in AI land, not the forecast of the speculation, but the actual numbers, Micron earnings are telling us that. And guess what? They had, as you said, a bumper quarter. Revenue was up 346% year on year, 74% quarter on quarter. It's absolutely phenomenal. Gross margins, almost 85%. Now, 85%, that's some software type.
Software
margins, right?
That's sassy.
That's sassy, right?
Yeah.
So they've done extremely well. And so Micron had a great quarter, and that they walked in and sort of steadied markets a little bit. Now, so far, so good. Friday's not over yet. It's not a victory lap. But the blowout demand absolutely tell us that the AI economy is alive and well. They've got more than $100 billion in long-term agreements. Customers are paying in advance. It is so hard to secure this stuff. They've taken $22 billion in deposits just to lock down supply. Yeah. Their capacity is completely sold out for the rest of the year. They can only fill from half to 2/3 of demand. They're committed 18 months out. Okay, so this is a really, really interesting signal. Now, you could say it's still to some extent lagging in the sense of when you see earnings that tell us what's happened in the last quarter, and you could say the real forward-looking signal is the hyperscaler CapEx guidance, but the Micron earnings and the memory makers earnings is absolutely the canary in the coal mine. Or the lie detector, you could say, because they're the ones saying, people might be saying they're spending, but are they actually spending? And right now they are actually spending. So the memory says that we're still building, CapEx is still rolling, the AI train is still going. The question is, what's next, and can everybody keep it up?
Neil, any thoughts on Micron or anything that you see from maybe a different lens?
Look at that share price. Rarely have we seen an L-shaped share price. No one ever wanted to be a hardware banker in my time in banking because it's just so volatile, and you're beholden to the semiconductor cycle. And who would have thought we would have a $1.4 trillion memory business in the market? I think it's a great time to be in picks and shovels. You look at IQE in South Wales that makes compound semiconductor wafers, assembling 300 layers of gallium arsenide and silicon carbide. And we're a world leader in in this space, including photonics. And if you look at IQE share price, it's gone from like 5p to I think 56p at the peak. Is just below 50p currently, but that's been on a bit of a tear, like Micron, because if you're a semis designer, a manufacturer, you just can't get hold of the materials. If you're building PCBs, you can't get hold of the laminates. So there's, I think, multiple ways in which people can play this AI train. You don't have to just try and get hold of some secondary shares in one of the frontier models.